Okay, welcome to the Mayors Mixtape. We're on the road today.
And down the road.
I'm Haley Sue Robinson, Director of Public Affairs for the City of Pueblo.
City of Pueblo Mayor Heather Graham.
Chris Noeller, Chief of Police.
And Chief Noeller, where are we today?
We're in the Real-Time Crime Center, checking out drone as first responder and some of the other things that our real-time crime techs do for us.
Okay, this is exciting. Talk to us a little bit about this screen behind us for folks who maybe have never seen this before.
Yeah, behind us on the screen there's about a 6-foot by 10-foot video wall that displays different camera images from cameras that we have around town. It can also do the video for the drone as first responder or other drones that we have out in the city that are being flown manually by our police officers out in the street. You can see different parts of town that are being monitored, not consistently, not 24 hours a day, but as they go through these different camera feeds, they'll look at different things, and if they see criminal activity, they'll radio it into officers.
Very cool. So, when you talk about some of the cameras that we have around the city, those can be trailer cameras. What other types of video work do we have that can be fed into the Real-Time Crime Center?
Absolutely. We have 4 trailer cameras that we can move throughout the town. There are some fixed surveillance cameras that we have access to that are city-owned. Usually those are on city property or city building or in our parks.
Oh, sure.
So we have cameras in some of our parks right now, and that's a developing situation in different parks throughout the community, but we can monitor those cameras. There is in the future the ability for us to monitor cameras that people allow us to monitor, like businesses. That's in the future, but that is a point that we're moving towards.
Sure. And actually, at this point, I should probably tell the listener, if you normally listen to this podcast on Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple, today's podcast would probably be a good podcast to actually go to YouTube and to watch because of the visual aspect. So while there's plenty of information to share and speak about, there's a lot to see as far as the Real-Time Crime Center. As Chief Noeller, you mentioned the drones as first responders. But it's also the Real-Time Crime Center involves the ShotSpotter technology?
Yep.
Okay.
So that technology feeds into the Real-Time Crime Center and our dispatchers. Also license plate readers that we have in various locations throughout the community. That information is also fed into the Real-Time Crime Center. So there's a lot of unique aspects to the technology that we're using to try to address crime in our community and be more responsive to what's happening.
Okay. And Mayor, you and Chief Noeller last year went and did a presentation before DOLA to ask for additional technology. That includes the drones as first responders?
No.
And launching this?
The drones as first responders was just a budget ask for the police department for 2025, but it does include a lot of the cameras and 2 of the camera trailers that you see. So we were successful in the $1 million grant, and then we also had to put $1 million in general fund for the grant match. So a lot of this technology that you're seeing today has been paid through grants.
Okay, that's fantastic. And we have 3 ShotSpotters in total, is that correct?
We have 6 square miles of the city that is monitored by the ShotSpotter system through sound thinking. And it activates when somebody shoots a firearm in an area that's outdoors. It'll track where that is, triangulate where the shot came from, and allow us to direct officers to a very specific area to look for those for evidence of the shooting. In 21 cases, it's led our officers to be in there in enough time to render aid to an individual that was shot.
Wow.
Whereas otherwise, they may not have got that aid. Certainly not in a quick enough time to potentially prevent a homicide from occurring.
And we're just coming off of the 4th of July, so I know a question we get all the time is, how does ShotSpotter tell the difference between an actual gunfire shot and maybe fireworks that we hear frequently this time of year?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. They have, what happens is the sound triggers the shot spotter system, and it uses AI to listen to that sound. It decides, hey, this one I think is a gunshot. That gets routed to a human being who then also reviews that noise, and then that human being either concurs or doesn't. If they do concur, that gets sent over to our department. It takes about 60 seconds for that to happen.
That's pretty quick.
It's very quick. If they don't concur, then it gets it's still tracked. So if later we determine that there was a shooting, we can pull that audio back over to the gunfire side of the house, if you will, and use that information in a criminal proceeding.
Sure.
But it also allows us, in a few times, it's allowed us to identify crime scenes that maybe because of where they happened, the type of weapon that was used or whatever, it didn't initially register as a gunshot. We can go back later and reclassify that as a gunshot once we find the evidence that there was a shooting involved.
Wow, so it's really smart technology.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about how this technology has maybe helped us with the police force. I mean, I think one thing, Mayor, you talk about it a lot. I know, Chief, I hear it often from you of our officer shortage. How does technology like this assist the department, or why is it important?
I think it fills in when officers can't be there, especially with now the drone is first responder. The drone will be able to get to a call in 60 seconds. So that will help us clear calls. If there's not emergencies going on, then we can send the drone out to clear the call from the police station and not actually send an officer. So we hope that will help with some of the call load that we face, and I think it will also help protect our officers and protect our civilians and our community members if we have eyes on the scene as something is happening in real time.
It sounds like it's an efficiency measure. So when you talk about clearing calls, Chief, can you walk us through what does it mean to clear a call with one of the drones as first responders?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously there's a limit to the flight time based on the battery, so it won't be going to every call. There's certain calls that we will dispatch the DFR to. The DFR drone is first responder. We'll dispatch the DFR to the call like a suspicious vehicle. A lot of times what happens is by the time the officer gets there, that vehicle is gone. So what we can do now is we can send that drone out there to look and see if that vehicle is there. And if it is, then we can continue maybe routing an officer while we keep eyes on what's going on to develop information if this is really a suspicious vehicle or is it just a person that parked under a tree for lunch break.
Sure.
And maybe then we can say, this is not really something we need to send an officer on. We can divert them to a higher priority call. Or we can decide, we still want to send an officer there. We're not really sure what this person is up to. Or optimally, and what happens in a lot of cases when we talk to departments around the country that have started this process, is they actually clear about 25% of their calls and never send an officer because the person's gone, the fight's over, and everybody's left. The suspicious vehicle is no longer there on scene, or it's just a grandma that went to a park and was taking her grandkids to the playground, and we were able to determine that, and we don't need to send an officer. So that's a huge efficiency thing. The other advantage is we send it out there and it is a suspicious vehicle, let's say, and from the distance we can tell a guy's got a gun in the car. Well, now we can radio that information to responding officers. Maybe it bumps up the priority of the call and we free up officers from other calls to come do that, and we can provide them real-time intelligence while they're en route to help them identify a tactical way of approaching, identify ways that they can maybe contact this person from an area of safety and minimize the chance of getting into an officer-involved shooting or a use of force. Certainly it's not an end-all be-all. It's not going to solve all these problems. We're still going to have officer use of force. We're still going to have officer-involved shootings. But this is a way we can try to keep both our officers safe, which is a high priority for me, and also our community members safe, which is also a high priority for all of us.
Yeah. Did I hear you correctly? You said 25% of the calls can be...
In some departments, that's what they've seen, is a 25% reduction. Yeah.
And we're the first department in Colorado?
With the Brink drones, we are. I think we're the second department in Colorado with DFR. I think Colorado Springs started a program a few months before us. And I'm not aware of anybody else, but...
Okay, so talk to us a little bit more about drones as first responders. Why are they called first responders? Because that's, I mean,
well,
why
I think
don't
the
we just call
idea
them
there
drones?
is, well, I think the idea here is these drones, so we have two kinds of drones in our department.
Okay.
We have drones that we issue to certain officers that are trained pilots to fly these drones through the FAA. They have those drones in their cars, and we're going to continue with that model.
Okay.
And so they're with the officer, they respond with the officer. This is a DFR, drone as first responder, because we're literally launching the drone with the idea of it being there first.
Okay.
So that's where that comes from. And ideally with our system, like I mentioned, there's a finite amount of battery time that those drones can stay aloft. So when we get officers there that have drones from their cars, now we can start taking over and deploying those drones as well. And certainly as the technology advances, that flight time will get longer and longer and longer.
So this technology went live last week.
Yes.
How much training, you talked about the training that your officers have for their drones and their vehicles.
Right.
What does it look like for this different technology here in the Real-Time Crime Center?
Our real-time crime techs have received training as well over this last week.
Okay.
On how to fly these drones, control them from here in the Real-Time Crime Center. And so they have the same capabilities now, but they don't have to have line of sight on these drones because of certain permissions we got from the FAA and certain technologies that we've had to put into place in order to make the DFR system work. They can fly them from here and send them up to 2 miles away from here in order to utilize that drone.
Okay.
So.
And how many drones do we have at this point?
I believe we have 10 drones that are assigned to officers or detectives, and then we have the one drone right now that will expand to 5 drones that are DFRs.
Okay, that's exciting. So if you still happen to be a listener during the podcast, behind Mayor Graham and behind Chief Noeller, we're bringing up some video image of actually what the drone looks like while in flight over the city of Pueblo.
Yeah, so right now they are controlling the drone from here inside the Real-Time Crime Center and flying it over the city towards the new boathouse, as you can see there, and the Da Vinci Museum. You know, it can go up to about 2 miles away from where we're at. It has ability to stream the video back to us here at the Real-Time Crime Center.
This is a live stream.
Yeah, yep.
And so then is this something that the Real-Time Crime Center technician is then able to give audio or radio calls to your officers while they're potentially responding, or even just in a vehicle before they respond?
Absolutely. So like right now, if we were responding to this area off of City Center and the interstate here, and the real-time crime tech started seeing some sort of drama taking place, they could get on the radio, the police radio, and air to responding officers what they're seeing, clothing descriptions, directions to travel, are they armed, not armed, are they getting in a car, what kind of car is it, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like I said, it's a huge intelligence piece that we've never had before.
Right.
You know, even back in the olden days when I was a patrolman, the technology.
You're dating yourself, Chief.
Right. The technology that we had just a few years ago even provided information that we didn't get when I was a patrolman. You know. And now you look at this kind of stuff. I mean, I can think of a number of situations when I was a young patrol officer responding to calls where knowing where the bad guys were would have been vital to our safety and how we managed a scene.
So it's about 30 seconds and we're on East 4th already. So that's pretty quick.
It's pretty quick. I mean, it's much faster than if you were to get in a patrol vehicle.
Yeah.
And
so, I mean, here's the 7-Eleven at East 4th Street. We're getting ready to fly over now.
We're flying at 16 miles an hour?
16.
Is that right?
Yep, 16.
Oh, 11.5. Oh, we're slowing down.
Yeah, but now you can monitor this area so it can sit and hover if there's an active situation.
Right.
So, Chief, I was talking to you earlier in the week, and you gave us an example of how the Real-Time Crime Center helped with an active situation at a park.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through how this technology already assists? Because I think some people look at this technology and they're like, oh, great, it's going to help us soon. But maybe ShotSpotter or the license plate readers or other technology is already assisting us.
Yeah, absolutely. we've had a couple of situations at a park here in town where we have cameras at that park, and as a regular routine, they go through the real-time crime text and just check cameras periodically through that we have access to. When they checked these cameras on 3 different occasions, they found people that had guns and also were using narcotics. They were able to route officers to that park on 3 separate occasions. One of those occasions that people got into a vehicle and left, we were able to use LPRs to identify that vehicle. Later on, we were able to roll back and charge those individuals with possession of a weapon by a previous offender, and then seize that car, did a search warrant, and got some guns out of that vehicle. There's 2 more incidents where the guy got away, but we were able to identify him based on these cameras. About a week or 2 later, we saw that same individual back out of the park again with a gun, got into a foot pursuit with him. He dumped the gun. We were able to locate the gun and charge him not only with the possession that day, but for the possession that he had a week or 2 prior. So we were able to make some pretty significant arrests, and that's just with stationary cameras and the LPRs. So
it's helping you build cases for folks who are actively committing crimes, but it also gives real information in live time to folks on the ground. When I know one thing you talk about a lot is proactive policing, and it's essentially like this technology allows us to also proactive police.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like I said before, it's a game changer in what we're going to be capable of doing and how we'll be able to use the technology. I think we talked a little bit earlier today where I was reading about how in like 1912 we put call boxes out on the streets, and how today, prior to 1912, if you were a police officer and you got into a fight, you were on your own. You had to win or you were going to get seriously hurt or killed.
Because you couldn't call for backup.
Call for backup. When I was a patrolman, we had radios. We had to check out a radio. We didn't get issued radios. We had to check out a radio from the desk sergeant each shift so that we could have a radio on our person. Now we've gotten to the point where there's computers in the cars, and the amount of information that officers have access to is just unbelievable compared to even when I was a patrolman. And this technology with the DFRs is going to be just like that. It's going to come to a point where we won't be able to imagine a time where we didn't have this technology and how we would be able to survive without it.
Sure.
It's kind of amazing what technology does for us.
Well, and I think, to your point, we look at a timeline of even when Mayor Graham was on city council and now to the time as you as mayor, just the technology upgrades that we've had. It's pretty incredible to just see how far advanced we've already become.
Yeah, we're fortunate to be at this time. It's kind of exciting to be in this time of law enforcement and see what technology can do. It's just pretty amazing.
So if you're watching online, you can see just how quickly we can zoom in and see street names or identifying information, and it's extremely clear. So when officers are asking for information or the real-time crime technicians are seeking additional information, they can use it almost immediately to zoom in. It almost looks like when you zoom on your phone, like you're taking a picture or video.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
And it's really, really easy. So I think one of the other pieces or questions is, how does this work with dispatch? How do the drones get dispatched? Because obviously the real-time crime technicians are those folks who are using the technology, but how does it interface? if folks can hear some of the beeping or the radios, we're also in the dispatch center.
Yep.
But how does this get deployed?
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of the way it's integrated is really interesting. So like our ShotSpot activations go straight to dispatch. These guys get it as well, but dispatchers get those sent straight to their console. It comes up and they dispatch officers. The interaction between the real-time crime center and dispatch is a lot more involved than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So what will eventually happen is that when those ShotSpotter calls come in, the drone will automatically launch and go to that site, the closest drone. It'll just automatically do it. That's
Okay.
coming in the future. So it's kind of really, really intricately involved. Right now, what will happen is our real-time crime techs will need to pay attention to what's going on the radio and dispatch. They will quote unquote dispatch the DFR to the scene.
Okay.
And take control of it. Our dispatchers don't control the drone, the real-time crime techs do, but there is a lot of integration that's going to happen in the next year or two that will make it a lot more seamless than it is right now.
So there's a lot of room for the technology to grow. Okay. I think another thing that, a lot of folks wonder or ask about is how the AI piece works and then how much is controlled by individuals. You've answered that a little bit, but how much of this is AI and how much of this is somebody behind a console or a desk?
This right here is all behind a console or desk.
Okay.
In the future, with the integration with ShotSpotter and the automatic launch, that would be more of an AI thing. It'll drop like a GPS point, and the drone will fly to it automatically. So there's a little bit of AI technology there, but then at some point a human will have to take control of it.
Okay.
And make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's not in too high of a winds or whatever.
Sure.
And then they'll have to bring it back to the station. So there'll still be some human interaction. It won't be fully automatic.
And another thing you mentioned is the battery life. What does the battery life look like on these drones as first responders?
I'd rather not say.
Okay, but
to be honest with you, but there is a limit to how long it can be in the air.
Sure.
And it's not a very long time right now.
We can't. My point is, we can't deploy it all the time.
No.
It's not like a 24/7.
Every call.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would have to fly back and recharge.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, and there is a capability of doing that.
Sure.
And we do have extra batteries, so we can extend the life, but it has to return for the change of batteries.
That's fantastic. Chief, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I know, Mayor, this has been a priority for you as far as bringing in technology that assists business owners. I know that's not quite in line with the drones as first responders, but a lot of it has to do with the real-time crime center. Can you kind of walk us through what that partnership looks like or how that's developing?
Well, right now businesses can get on our website, right, and they can register saying that they have their own cameras at their locations. And so if we ever have an issue on Union Avenue, we know what businesses have cameras and that record, and so then we can send officers out to get camera footage if we have an issue. So that's kind of where we are right now.
It's like an opt-in
Community
program.
Connect, yeah. And hopefully we get to a point where we'll be able to integrate some of the cameras if businesses allow us to.
And homeowners can also do that. It does not give us access to their cameras. It tells us where the cameras are, and then we can request video, and they can tell us no.
Sure.
It's not a we're tapping into your system and we're pulling video. Now in the future there will be the ability to do that, but the person on the other end would have to agree to that.
Sure.
It's not something we can just automatically
we require
do.
consent to access all of it.
And they would have to give us the means to be able to get into their system. So it's not like I can just tap into
you can't come
to your
spy on
video.
me and
No.
find out what I'm getting on DoorDash.
Correct.
Or okay.
Correct.
All right.
Unless you want us to.
No. maybe not right now, but so but I think that also brings up another point. A lot of folks have this uneasiness that they're constantly being viewed or watched. I feel like Big Brother's there. Kind of walk us through what that looks like or why that's not necessarily the case.
Right. Well, first off, we don't have time to be watching what everybody's doing, nor do we care, to be quite honest with you. But
what a disappointment, Chief.
Right. You look at incidences like the Boston Marathon bombing.
Okay.
Where you had the two brothers that planted explosives at the location of the marathon and killed a number of people. I can't remember how many.
I just watched that movie last night. Yeah.
If it wasn't for the video footage, I'm not sure we would have ever been able to identify who they were. It's possible maybe one person would have caught something on a camera, taken a picture of a runner, but it's not likely. And so the ability to go back and look at those camera feeds and piece together what happened, and then be able to piece together after they fled where they went, because that's how they ended up tracking them down, is a great example of what can happen with a system like this and the ability to access cameras. Now, the reality of it is we do periodically look at different cameras to see if criminal activity is going on. I talked about the incidents at the park, but we're not looking at the park video to see who's using the park to swing on the swings. We're looking at it to see, is there criminal activity afoot? And if there is it something that's worthy of our intervention? Because some super low-level crimes probably aren't worthy of our intervention, but it allows us to identify the players. And then, like I talked about, having those cameras, we made the one arrest that one day. We were able to prove that the guy had a gun 2 weeks prior and also charge that person with that offense as well. So that's kind of the use of the cameras.
And right now we've been really using the cameras too if we have high areas of crime happening and continuous crime, and so we might have a business call and say, you know, hey, this house next door to me is there's lots of issues going on. I'm continuously calling 911. We can also back it up by our CompStat data that this is where a lot of calls for service happen, and so then we deploy a camera trailer out there, and we're able to watch and look for additional issues that are happening, or when they do happen, we have backup to successfully, you know, take somebody down.
And I think the other thing that's important is it's about piecing the timeline together. It's not necessarily like we hear real-time crime center, so I think a lot of folks, to your point earlier, is we think maybe Chief is looking to see what I'm doing, if I'm walking down the street, if I picked up my lunch, if I ran this stop sign, or, you know, if my clothes match or something. But it's really about folks who are committing crimes and in high traffic areas.
Right. I mean, we have an incident over at 4th and Glendale where we have one of our trailers, and we are constantly monitoring that. We get a lot of complaints of criminal activity, drug use, prostitution, those kinds of things. We look at those cameras all the time. Not 24 hours a day, but a lot.
Yeah.
And it's fair to say that a lot of times we're taking zero action on what's happening. But then every now and then we see a guy we know has a warrant, we check him out, and then, he's got a warrant for whatever, and then we radio and send an officer over there to pick him up. And that's how we can try to reduce crime, is by getting these criminals off of our streets and putting them where they belong, in the jail, when we have the opportunity to do that.
I just think it's incredible to see how this technology integrates with how officers do their job each and every day. So,
another cool thing too is that we can pipe in their body-worn camera footage up here.
Oh, and you can live stream this on...
So if we get into a foot pursuit, these guys can call out descriptions, and my guy can just worry about running, or my gal can just worry about running and trying to catch the guy, and not worrying about having to get on the radio. So it's a huge officer safety component to what we're doing in the field.
Yeah, I think the common theme I hear is safety and efficiency from how this technology works, which is pretty exciting. Anything else you think we need to know? I think we could probably sit here all day and ask you question after question, because it's really exciting and amazing to see how this helps the department.
You know, one thing I would just like to encourage the people in the community is, if you wonder what it is we do, and you wonder whether we're working hard enough for you, you have the opportunity to come down here and do a ride along with our officers and see what they do every day. When we walked over into this meeting today, I looked at the call screen, and when I walked over here, we had 18 calls for service holding. So having the ability to clear up calls and not send officers is huge, because we can prioritize higher level calls. But it's also, like you talked about, an efficiency and a safety issue. And if people want to know what it is we do firsthand, rather than making assumptions, I encourage you to come down and ride along with us.
That's
It's
exciting.
fun.
Thanks for joining us, or actually letting us join you today, Chief.
Absolutely.
I want to say thank you to the Real-Time Crime Center technicians, to our sergeant, and to everyone here in dispatch for letting us interrupt the day. But
And if I could, real quick, I'd
Sure.
just like to thank Deputy Chief Martin, Captain Bowen, and Sergeant Jeremy Matthews for the incredible amount of work that they did to get this thing going. The Real-Time Crime Center is a huge project, and it's still ongoing, and they've done a great job building it up to where it is now, and I just want to give them credit for what they've done.
great, we appreciate that. Please like, subscribe, find us on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Buzzsprout. You can also find us on Channel 17. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're normally a podcast listener and not a viewer, today's episode would be great on YouTube or on Channel 17. If you have topic suggestions or questions, you can email us mayor@pueblo.us. And we'll see you next week.